Bowl season continues. Time for my second slate of picks. Let's go. What's going on, everybody? It's me again, Golden Blue Dude, and if you haven't already, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button. I do college football videos every single day, so whether you agree with me, want to talk trash with me, or talk trash to me, you're going to enjoy this channel. I've already done my first slate of bowl games. There were 5. So far, I'm 2-1. I'm waiting on the Cheez-It Bowl, which I picked Miami, and the Alamo Bowl, which I picked Texas, and I laid the points. I'm picking against the spread. First game for the second slate. The Duke's Mayo Bowl. Wake Forest out of the ACC, they're 4-4 against Wisconsin out of the Big Ten. They are 3-3. Wisconsin is the 7.5 point favorite. This could be a very, very close, interesting game. The quarterback for Wake Forest, Sam Hartman. He's 139 for 236. That's 58.9%. Not great. Throwing for 1,906 yards. 10 touchdowns, but only 1 interception, so he takes care of the ball. Their running back, Christian Beal Smith, 121 carries, 650 yards, 5.4 yards a carry. For Wisconsin, their quarterback, Graham Mertz, 107 for 176, that's 60.8%. That's not terrible, but that's still not good either. Throwing for 1,108 yards, 8 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. Their running back, Jalen Berger, 45 carries for 267 yards, 5.9 yards a carry. I think Wisconsin needs to run the ball more. So Wake Forest averages 435.2 offensive yards a game. That's 34th. They allow 456.9 offensive yards a game. That's 107th. That's bad. If you look at Wisconsin, it's totally the opposite. They average 358.8 offensive yards a game. That's 93rd. But they allow just 263.5 offensive yards a game. That's number 1 in the nation. Wake Forest scores 37 points per game. That's 19th. And they allow 31.6 points per game. That's 70th. Over to Wisconsin, again, completely the opposite. They score 22.3 points per game. That's 105th. And they allow just 15.7 points per game. That's 6th. The last game that I picked that was like this was Western Kentucky versus Georgia State. And I took the defense. This time, I'm taking the offense. Give me Wake Forest in the upset. The Goodyear Cotton Bowl. Number 7, Florida. They're 8-3 against number 6, Oklahoma. They're 8-2. Florida opened as a 2-point favorite. Now it has flipped to Oklahoma, who's now a 3-point favorite. The quarterback for Florida, we all know him, Kyle Trask. Could win the Heisman. 285 for 409. That's 69.7%. 4,125 yards. 43 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. Running back Dameon Pierce. 95 carries for 443 yards. 4.7 yards a carry. That's not bad either. For Oklahoma, their quarterback Spencer Rattler. He's starting to look good. 200 for 294. That's 68%. He's thrown for 2,784 yards. 25 touchdowns. 7 interceptions. Most of those at the beginning of the year. No TJ Pledger for Oklahoma. They have switched over to Ramondo Stevenson. 83 carries for 479 yards, 5.8 yards a carry. That's a good switch. He's a good running back. On the year, Florida averaged 508.8 offensive yards a game. That's 9th. And they allowed 404.7 offensive yards a game. That's 63rd. Not good. Oklahoma, they averaged 475.8 offensive yards a game. That's 18th. Top 20. And they allowed 333.6 offensive yards a game. That's 19th. Also top 20. Florida scored 41.6 points per game. That's 11th. But allowed 28.6 points per game. 63rd. Oklahoma, they scored 41.8 points per game. That's 9th. That's better than Florida. And allowed 21.9 points per game. That's 31st. That's way better. Oh yeah, Florida will be missing a lot of production on the offense. Their tight end, Kyle Pitts, not playing. Wide receivers Tony, Grimes, and Cope, not playing. That's 174 of their receptions gone. That's 2,778 receiving yards gone. I think Oklahoma could beat Florida, and they could beat them bad. Give me Oklahoma. Lay them 3 points. and have a good night's rest tonight. Let's move on to December 31st. The Armed Forces Bowl presented by Lockheed Martin. Number 24, Tulsa, they're 6-2 against Mississippi State, who's 3-7. Tulsa's only a 2.5 point favorite. Tulsa's quarterback, Zach Smith, 121 for 217. That's 55.8%. That's pretty bad. He's thrown for 1,600 yards, 12 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. Their running back, Corey Taylor II, 85 carries for 431 yards, 5.1 yards a carry. Give him the ball. For Mississippi State, their quarterback, Will Rogers, 220 for 316. That's 69.6%. That's pretty good. He's thrown for 1,828 yards, 10 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, though. Running back, Jokavius Marks, 59 carries for 240 yards. That's 4.1 yards a carry. On the year, Tulsa averaged 405.4 offensive yards a game. That's 56th. They allowed 340.8 offensive yards a game. That's 24th. That's pretty good. For Mississippi State, they averaged 347.1 offensive yards a game. That's 103rd. That's crazy for a Mike Leach offense. They allowed 380.3 offensive yards a game. That's 47th. So they were actually better on defense. Wow. On the year, Tulsa averaged 27.2 points per game. That's 73rd. And they allowed 20.8 points per game. That's 23rd. On the flip side, Mississippi State averaged just 20.7 points per game. That's 109th. Again, that's crazy for a Mike Leach offense. They allowed 28.3 points per game. That's 60th. I really don't understand why Tulsa's only a 2.5 point favorite. I'm taking Tulsa. I'm laying the 2.5. We'll see what happens. The Arizona Bowl presented by OfferPad. This should be a good one. I think this is a must-watch. Ball State, 6-1, champions of the MAC, against San Jose State, 7-0, champions of the Mountain West. Champion versus champion. That's always a must-watch bowl. San Jose State is a 9.5 point favorite right now. Ball State's quarterback, Drew Plitt, he was 152 for 231. That's 65.8%. Not bad. Threw for 1,937 yards, 16 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. That is a very competent quarterback. Their running back, Caleb Huntley, 80 carries for 437 yards, 5.5 yards a carry. I'd give the ball to Caleb just a little bit more than that. For San Jose State, their quarterback, Nick Starkel, 138 for 212, threw for 1,906 yards, 16 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Again, another competent quarterback. Running back, Tyler Nevins, 59 carries for 478 yards, 8.1 yards a carry. Give him the ball more. On the year, Ball State averaged 453.7 offensive yards a game. That's 24th. That's really good. But they allowed 441.7 offensive yards a game. That's 93rd. Yikes. San Jose State, they averaged 442 offensive yards a game. That's 29th. And they allowed 338.1 offensive yards a game. That's 21st. Advantage San Jose State. On the year, Ball State averaged 34.3 points per game. That's 26th. But they allowed 27.6 points per game. That's 56th. For San Jose State, they averaged 30.9 points per game. That's 46th. That's not great. But they only allowed 17.9 points per game. That's 13th. I'm going to take San Jose State, but I think this could be a close ball game. So I'm going to take the 9.5. The only thing that worries me is Ball State's defense, but they've played some good offenses and held them in check. We'll see what happens. The AutoZone Liberty Bowl. My team, West Virginia, 5-4 against Army, 9-2. West Virginia's actually a 7-point favorite. Quarterback Jarrett Daggy for West Virginia, 224 for 349. That's 64.2%. Threw for 2,428 yards, 13 touchdowns, just 3 interceptions. He has taken care of the ball this year. Letty Brown, our running back, had a breakout season. 179 carries for 945 yards, 5.3 yards a carry. I said that he would eclipse 850 yards in a 10-game season. We only got in 9, and he almost got to 1,000. Check mark for Golden Blue Dude. For Army, their quarterback, Christian Anderson. I use quarterback. He's the one with the highest stats. 16 for 41, 39%. 158 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. That's right. Army does not throw the ball. Their leading running back is also a quarterback who's interchangeable. They just don't throw it. Tyre Tyler, 115 carries for 502 yards. That's 4.4 yards a carry. But I looked at their roster, and there's 5 people, and I think 2 of them are quarterbacks. that can run the ball. They average over 4 yards a carry. It's a triple option team. For West Virginia, they have averaged 422.7 offensive yards a game. That's 43rd. That's not great, but not terrible. But have only allowed 297.2 offensive yards a game. That's 5th. That's a good defense. For Army, they've put up 324.9 offensive yards a game. That's 112th. That is bad. But they've only allowed 271.1 offensive yards a game. That's number 2, right behind Wisconsin. On the year, West Virginia has scored 26.8 points per game. That's 78th. That's abysmal. But they've only allowed 20.4 points per game. That's 21st. For Army, not much better in the offensive category. They've scored 27.3 points per game. That's 72nd. But have only allowed 14 points per game. That's number 2. So we have 2 great defenses and a triple option in Army against an okay, but not a great offense in West Virginia. Of course, I'm going to take West Virginia, but it's not a homer pick, I promise. I think they beat Army by 10 points. Army don't throw the ball at all. And head coach Neal Brown is good at looking at the opposing offense and figuring out how to defend against it. So, as long as we stay gap sound and watch those chop blocks, because that's what the triple option does, West Virginia should be fine. This is going to be a low scoring game because both teams have a good defense. So, I'm looking at 24-13, something like that. I'll take West Virginia, lay the 7. The last ball on December 31st is the Texas Bowl, presented by Macari. Arkansas, who's 3-7, against TCU, who's 6-4. Right now, TCU is a 4.5-point favorite. For Arkansas, their quarterback, Felipe Franks, 163 for 238. That's 68.5%. That's pretty good. Run for 2,107 yards, 17 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. The running back, Trelon Smith, 134 carries for 710 yards, 5.3 yards a carry. Not bad. For TCU, their quarterback, Max Duggan, 146 for 240. That's 60.8%. Not great, but not terrible. Run for 1,795 yards, 10 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. And he's a dual threat quarterback. He is their leading rusher. 116 carries for 526 yards, 4.4 yards a carry. TCU's offense starts, ends, and goes through Max Duggan. On the year, Arkansas, 395.5 offensive yards a game. It's tied for 67th. That's surprisingly low. They've allowed 451.5 offensive yards a game. That's 105th. That's yikes bad. For TCU, they averaged 411 offensive yards a game. That's 51st. But they've allowed 350.9 offensive yards a game. That's 30th. So they do have a good defense. Arkansas has scored 25.7 points per game. That's 87th. And has allowed 34.9 points per game. That's 99th. Both those stats bad. For TCU, they've scored 30.8 points per game. That's 47th. That's not great, but definitely better than Arkansas. And they've allowed only 24.2 points per game. That's 37th. So on paper, this looks like a mismatch. It looks like TCU should blow Arkansas out of the water. The problem is TCU's offense is 100% Max Duggan. If you can shut down Max Duggan, you can shut down TCU. That's how West Virginia beat them. Arkansas doesn't have a good defense, but can they zero in on Max Duggan? I think they can. I think they do. Give me Arkansas in what looks like on paper a crazy upset, but in reality, TCU's only 4.5-point favorite. I'll take Arkansas in a mild upset. I do think they figure out how to zero in on Max Duggan, and I think Felipe Franks is going to have a great day. There's my second slate of games. I'll have my final slate of games coming out tomorrow. That's all I got for you for this show. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you on my next show.